Welcome everyone to this edition of the Fintech Whiteboard. And this week's episode is about conversions. And so I want to talk about some things you should know before you do a conversion. So it's stuff you should know before you agree to a conversion. All right, on to the next issue. Make sure that your new system has an SDK or some way that you can either extend it yourself or you can pay another company to extend it. What an SDK stands for is a software development kit. And what it means is that let's say that you have a home banking platform. We'll just draw our little browser here. And in that, it's got the traditional menu down the side. I'm just using this as an example. Your logo at the top and all this data. And let's say that you go and you convert to a fancy new credit card provider, and this even goes for credit card providers who can have SDKs as well. And this new credit card provider has some new feature that you want to make access of, but the vendor that you're working with and the timeline that they have is not in your favor. So what would be nice is if you could either use your own developers or hire somebody like us at Big. So just shameless plug, but Big does this sort of development on many different systems. We've had a lot of experience in the home banking platform, so that they could say add a menu item here for this new feature that then you would have control of and that you could go ahead and roll out in your system without affecting your platform. And the same would go for if you were going to do the same thing in mobile. So let's say you have a nice mobile system and you want to add that. Generally the mobile platform is going to have the hamburger menu appear, and through a process of something magical like what we call responsive design, you could add that same feature that you added over here. A lot of vendors have this sort of ability. Sometimes you have to pay a little more to get it, but it's well worth your time because then you will be able to control your own destiny. You'll be able to understand when you want to put something in that you're not just tied to the vendor. And the vendor built this for a reason because they knew that no matter what they did, they were not going to be able to please everyone everywhere. So one final thought, and this is really the thing I find that most people trip up over when they're considering conversions, which is, and I'm going to write it in big letters here because it's something one of my mini bosses, I believe it was Bucky Sebastian, who told me, we, and he meant us as the credit union, are not special. And what I think he meant by that wasn't that we weren't a special, fantastic group of employees and a special credit union that delivered amazing services. What he meant by that is that our problems were not so different from the credit unions down the street that were using the same platform. And what he wanted me to do was make sure before we got all excited about moving off a platform or changing what we were doing, that we could for sure know that we checked with other credit unions that were on the same platform and make sure that they hadn't found a way to overcome that. Because if we had the problem, it was darn sure other people were going to have the problem. So just a thought is to make sure to know you're not special. And what this leads to is kind of the final thought here, which is whatever you do, wherever you go, however you decide you're going to work on this, you need to make sure that you have influence with your new partner. And I'm going to write partner because you don't want a vendor, you want a partner. A couple other quick tips. This is an important one. Here's what you need to do with your RFP process. So for those of you that are deciding to go and build a 50-page 600 question RFP that you're going to send out to all these vendors. Here's what I think you should do with it. Is I think you should go ahead and toss it in the trash can because nobody's really reading it, and I find that everybody's just sort of wasting their time with this big document. We'll talk more about how I think you should go about an RFP, which is more about forming a team and trying to really lay out a strategy. This RFP, especially the ones that are super long, and I know that we think they're well thought out, but at the end of the day, I've not seen any of these work. And I would challenge you to this. If you're looking to move, I'm pretty sure that the way you found the vendor that you're on now is via an RFP process. So why would you do the same thing again, only to find out that, it didn't work again? I think that the answer is we have to think differently about how we approach partnerships in the core, in the digital, in the credit card space, in our critical functions, so that we can get the results we're looking for. So if you're interested in talking to us about this, we help people with these sorts of strategies. You can find me on LinkedIn if you just looked up John Best. If you want to talk to me on Twitter, it's at JB Fintech. Pretty simple. If you want to find me an email, it's jb@big-cu.com. And if you're an Instagram person, it's John Best Official. And I would love to hear from you and comments or ideas about this. I know some of this might be a little controversial, but I really believe that people have to think really hard before they put themselves into a conversion. Thanks for your time. This has been a FinTech Whiteboard.